What does it mean for something to be an environment? At one level, it's a question that can be answered quite easily. An environment is the world that surrounds us, the backdrop against which our lives play out. It's the sun and the moon and the stars, the trees and the water, the people and the buildings. All of the things that make up the world that we inhabit. In short, it's the world as we know it. But if we want to understand what an environment really is, we have to look beyond the physical world that surrounds us and consider the social world that we inhabit as well. And when we do that, we find that the definition of environment becomes a good bit more complicated. That's because while the physical environment is the world that we live in, the social environment is the world we live with, and the relationship between the two is a dynamic one. Think of any social group, a community, a tribe, a nation, even a family. What keeps that group going? What ensures its survival over time? Is it the older members who hold the memories and the stories of the past? Or is it the younger members who carry the hopes and dreams of the future? The answer, of course, is both. The past and the future are inextricably linked. But if we're honest, we have to admit that the future is always more fragile than the past. Memories fade, but new stories are constantly being written. In fact, the only way for a community to sustain itself over time is through the constant renewal of its members. The older generation may hold the memories of the past, but it's the younger generation that ensures the continuation of the group. It's the younger generation that keeps the group going. And so when we think about education, we can see that it's not just about filling young minds with information. It's about cultivating an environment where young people can grow into the kind of adults who can sustain their communities. It's about creating an environment where the next generation can thrive. This is the second chapter in a series called The Meaning of Environment. In this series, we're going to explore what it means for something to be an environment, both in the physical sense and the social sense. We'll look at how humans interact with the environment and how the environment shapes us. We'll also explore the challenges facing our planet today and what we can do to create a sustainable future. If you like what you heard, stay tuned for more. Until next time, remember that the world is full of wonder, and there's always something new to learn. Keep your mind open and your curiosity alive. The world is our environment, and we're all in this together. Education, bringing up, rearing, raising children in a particular way so they become the kind of people that society needs them to be. I'm the author of a book on the sociology of education. So let's start with the basics. What is education? So education is fundamentally a fostering, nurturing, and cultivating process. These words all imply a close attention to the conditions that support growth. We also talk about rearing, raising, or bringing up children, terms that highlight the gap in understanding and skill that education aims to bridge. Etymologically, education simply means the process of leading forth or bringing up. When we consider the outcome, we describe education as a shaping, forming, or molding activity, essentially shaping individuals into the standard form of social activity expected by the group. The core focus of this chapter is how a social group brings its young members into its own social form. Put a little more formally, education is the process of transmitting culture to the next generation and socializing new members into the values, beliefs, and behaviors of a social group or society. Education is both a social institution and a process through which individuals are prepared for their adult roles in society. It is through education that groups ensure the transmission of knowledge and skills necessary for the continuation of society. It is also through education that groups shape the values, beliefs, and behaviors of their members. There are many different groups that play a role in the socialization of an individual. Family is often considered the first and most important agent of socialization. However, other groups, such as peers, the media, religion, and the state, all play a part as people interact with these groups and the individuals within them. They learn the norms and values of their society and develop an understanding of their place within it. Groups establish mechanisms to enforce conformity to their norms and values. In many societies, for example, parents have considerable control over the socialization of their children. They set the rules and regulations of the household and monitor their children's behavior. Peers, too, can exert a great deal of influence over individuals, especially during adolescence and young adulthood. As people get older, their behavior is monitored not only by parents and other family members, but also by teachers, employers, and the police. In modern societies, education is often highly institutionalized. That is, there are specific organizations and agencies that are responsible for the socialization of young people. The primary agent of formal education is the school. However, other institutions, such as religious organizations, youth groups, and the military, also play a role. As an institution, education has several functions. It transmits culture from one generation to the next. It prepares individuals for their adult roles in society. It creates a more educated and informed citizenry, and it promotes social mobility. The purpose of this book is to provide students with a comprehensive overview of the sociology of education. Throughout this book, we will examine how education shapes individuals and how individuals, in turn, shape education. We will explore the ways in which education both reflects and reinforces social inequality, and we will consider the various challenges facing education in the 21st century. If you want to know more about how this works, join me for the rest of the course. So if you think about it, it's kind of a miracle that we all turn out the way we do. I mean, given the completely free and unconstrained desires that we're all born with, it seems highly unlikely that we would ever come to resemble our parents or the people around us. How does the incredibly complicated web of beliefs, values, goals, and motivations get transferred from one generation to the next? Or how are new members brought into a group and made to feel as though they belong? How do we get other people to think the way we do? Well, this isn't about physical molding. You can't simply insert beliefs or aspirations into someone's mind like moving objects. Beliefs and ideas aren't physically transferable. So how are they communicated? Given that direct contagion or literal inculcation is impossible, the central problem is to discover the method by which the young assimilate the viewpoint of the old, or how the older generation brings the young into like-mindedness with themselves. The answer, broadly speaking, is by means of the action of the environment in calling out certain responses. The necessary beliefs can't be hammered in. The desired attitudes can't be simply plastered on. Instead, the particular medium in which an individual exists leads them to perceive and feel certain things over others. It prompts them to form specific plans to act successfully with others. It strengthens some beliefs and weakens others, often as a condition for gaining approval from the group. Thus, the environment gradually shapes a person's system of behavior and their disposition for action. But doesn't this make it so that people are merely the products of their environment? Well, yes and no. While it's true that the environment has a powerful influence on an organism, it's equally true that the organism has an influence on its own environment. A person's perceptions, feelings, goals, and plans don't just come from the environment, they also go to it. People don't just receive influences, they also exert them. They're not just acted upon, they act. There's a constant give and take between organism and environment, a continual feedback loop in which each side affects and is affected by the other. So, to sum up, people are shaped by their environment, but they're not just shaped by it. They actively participate in their own shaping. We are not passive recipients of influences, nor are we the sum total of our environments. Rather, we're dynamic systems that arise out of the constant interplay between inner dispositions and outer circumstances. We're the outcome of a continuous, reciprocal interaction between self and society, mind and world. Our thoughts, feelings, and actions are the result of our unique life histories, our individual psyches, and our socio-cultural milieu, all interacting together in an ongoing dance. What do we mean when we talk about the environment or medium of a thing? Do we mean its immediate surroundings? If you ask me, no, not exactly. I am inclined to say that the environment and medium of anything is that in which it is continuously affected by things external to itself, or from which it receives influences that make a difference to it. Let's take an inanimate object like this book. It is, of course, continuous with its surroundings. However, the circumstances in which this book finds itself, the fact that it is on a shelf in a library surrounded by other books, doesn't really constitute an environment for it, at least not metaphorically. Why? Because the book is not only not affected by its surroundings, it doesn't actually care about its surroundings. Books can be stored in many different ways, and it wouldn't make any difference to the book. On the other hand, something that is spatially and temporally remote from a living creature, especially a human, can constitute their environment more truly than things physically close to them. What do I mean by this? I'll explain with an example. This is an astronomer. They are gazing up at the stars, and their activity, their very being, is continuously affected by the positions and movements of the stars. Of course, they are also affected by their immediate surroundings, but their telescope is most intimately their environment. The telescope is a tool that the astronomer uses to see the stars, but it is also something that affects them. By turning the wheel of the telescope, the astronomer moves the focus, and the image of the star moves accordingly. But the movement of the star in the sky has a much more direct effect on the astronomer than the movement of the telescope. You could say that the star, though so remote, is more intimately the astronomer's environment than the telescope that they are holding. To take another example, this is an antiquarian. As an antiquarian, they are affected by things that are often very far removed from them in both space and time. Through their activities, they establish a connection with the past, and though separated by centuries from the people who made these relics, they are affected by them in a way that the people around them in their immediate environment are not. In their role as an antiquarian, this person's environment is this ancient inscription. It is also the parchment and the wax seal. These things are much more intimately their environment than the people and objects around them in the room, because the antiquarian's activity is directly affected by them. So when we talk about the environment or medium of something, we don't just mean the immediate surroundings. We mean something that is continuously affected by things external to itself. Only what is alive, in a way, can have an environment, and the environment of that thing will consist of the things that it is affected by. All right, class. What is environment? Let's get those neurons firing. What is environment? Okay, so one way to think about environment is, very simply, it's everything around you. It's all the stuff that's present, all the stuff that's available that either helps or hinders, stimulates or stops you from doing the things that you do. So, for example, water is a fish's environment because a fish needs water to live, to swim around, to do fish stuff. Similarly, the North Pole is an important element in the environment of an Arctic explorer, whether or not they ever actually make it to the North Pole, because the North Pole defines what that explorer can do. It makes them who they are. Their activities are defined by the fact that they are trying to get somewhere that's really cold and at the top of the world. Now, there's another way to think about environment, and that is to think about it as whatever actively contributes to your activity. So, for example, if I were to ask you, what's your environment? And you said, well, I'm a writer, so my environment is my desk, and my chair, and my computer. I would say that's a perfectly good definition of your environment. But then I would also say, your environment is not just your desk, and your chair, and your computer. Your environment is also the library down the street where you go to do research. It's the bookstore where you go to buy books. It's the people that you talk to when you're thinking about what to write about next. It's the editor that you're writing for. All of these things, taken together, constitute your environment. And more broadly, we can say that your environment is anything that contributes to your ability to do the thing that you do. So, for example, if you're a basketball player, well, the basketball court is part of your environment, but so is the gym where you work out, and the shoe store where you buy your Nikes, and the coach that yells at you, and the teammates that you argue with. All of these things constitute your environment. So, the key thing to remember about environment is that it does not just the stuff that does around you. Environment is everything that you interact with that enables you to do the thing that you do. Because, you know, life, it's not just that you're alive. Life is that you do something. You do something in the world. And so, environment, it's not just about existing. Environment is about doing. Environment is about activity. It's what enables you to be active in the world. Okay, class, I hope that helped. And I will see you next week.